The information in this video should not be relied upon as a formal valuation for any of these computers, and no responsibility is taken for how the viewer may use or misuse this information. Whilst every effort has been made to confirm the accuracy and validity of this data, there may be the occasional error or omission. This video may also contain my honest personal opinion. Prices quoted in this video are based on sold listings on ebay.com.au for a specified period, are in Australian dollars, and reflect the Australian retro computing market at the time of publishing. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I've had a few people ask about them, so here's a long-term Australian vintage computer market update. This video's format is a little different to previous videos. As such, I need to set some parameters before getting started. There are gaps in the data from mid-2021 through mid-2022. However, I am confident that the data collected is sufficient to offer a general feel for the market's overall direction. 2022 data was collected between the 1st of September and the 30th of November inclusive. Compared with previous reports, there is a limited selection of machines covered. The Commodore 64, the Amiga 500, 600 and 1200, along with the ZX Spectrum. Reporting is based on actual sold prices from ebay.com.au, and I've attempted to normalise the data by excluding listings that were part of a bundle, such as a monitor or disk drive, along with obvious outliers at both the high and low ends of the market. Plenty of Commodore 64s are still changing hands, and prices are continuing to rise. In 2021, the average working bread bin price was $257.90 and the average C64C price was $231.40. By November 2022, prices had risen to $294.87 and $264.27 respectively. Both working bread bins and 64Cs have risen by 14% since the previous market update in May 2021. The price gap between non-working bread bins and 64Cs has widened substantially since the previous market report, due to price rises in the former and price drops for the latter. In 2021, the gap between a non-working bread bin and a non-working 64C was just over $26. In 2022, this has increased to around $75. Parts or repair bread bins are now averaging $195.10, with 64Cs fetching an average of $120.40 a piece. Inferred reliability is a very simple calculation. Divide the number of working machines by the number of overall machines sold. Whilst not a perfect measure, it lines up with extensive anecdotal evidence suggesting that bread bins tend to have a higher failure rate than the Cs, and according to the latest data, this gap is widening. Only 44% of bread bins changing hands over the survey period were sold in a working condition, down from 52% in 2021 and 63% in 2020. Somewhat surprisingly, the percentage of working 64Cs has jumped from a consistent mid-60s in 2020 and 2021 to 80% in 2022. I stand by my previous comments about the 64C being a better overall proposition than the bread bin for first-time 64 buyers due to its price and reliability advantages. Despite competition from the A500 Mini, original Amiga 500 prices remained firm in 2022. As at November 2022, the average working Amiga 500 will set you back $465.75, a 13% increase since 2021. Non-runners averaged at $262.16, a 17% increase over the same period. More so than other machines on this list, the devil is in the detail and the average prices don't tell the whole story. Some examples include a mouse, some include a power supply, some include neither. Some machines with all these accessories have sold for less than those that include none. Given how much these accessories can cost when bought separately, this is definitely something to consider when choosing your next Amiga 500. During the survey period, 4 Amiga 600 sold for between $620 and $700 each. Only one of these was recapped. Given how much of a faff and or expense it is to recap an Amiga 600, the $700 example is easily the best buy of the lot. Note there is another A600 that sold for $849.95. However, I've excluded this as it's fitted with a Furia accelerator, a 4GB CF card, a brand new power supply, a Gotek, and a scan doubler for use with VGA monitors. Yet if the listing is correct, it hasn't been recapped. All those extra goodies will be for naught when the L capacitors eventually drop their guts all over the main board. As for A1200s, 4 changed hands at prices ranging from $620 to $875. It's worth noting that none of these machines have been recapped, and they vary widely in condition. The cheapest being a bit rough, the most expensive being very tidy in a custom case. Only one, a Box Computer Combat Pack sold on the 20th of September for $762, was in 100% original condition. I hope the new owner plans to recap it, as it would be tragic if such a nice example went to seed. Rather than attempting a year-on-year comparison, I've compared unrecapped Amiga 600 and Amiga 1200 prices for the latest survey period. Is unrecapped a word? I guess it is now. Unrecapped Amiga 600s traded in a relatively narrow band of between $620 and $667 each. As mentioned before, unrecapped A1200s traded for between $620 and $875. In one of my very first videos, I suggested that the ZX Spectrum kinda tanked on the Australian market. It turns out that I may have been a bit pessimistic in my estimation. Whilst it never had a chance against the Commodore juggernaut, the number of Speccies hitting the market down here suggests that it sold better than I originally thought. For the purposes of this exercise, I've focused on the ZX Spectrum Rubber Key and Spectrum Plus, both being 48K variants. I've merged data for both as the price difference between them is minimal, and further research has suggested that both of these models were officially sold on the Australian market back in the day. Please note that unlike Commodore data, which has gaps in 2021, I managed to keep full Spectrum sales data for 2020 and 2021. The survey period marked 2022 is the same 3-month window as the Commodore 64 and Amigas. Speccy prices have continued to climb, from $202.50 in 2021 to $272.50 in 2022. It's worth noting that every single working Speccy in the 2022 survey was restored and fully tested, which wasn't the case in 2021. Parts or repair prices have also risen, from around $89 each in 2021 to just shy of $120 a piece in 2022. The great Aussie Sinclair boom of 2022 has come as a bit of a shock. Along with a common 48K variants, other models have been fetching strong money down here. This year, 3 ZX Spectrum Plus 2s have sold for between $500 and $600 each, along with a handful of 128K toast racks and Indian market DB Spectrums, all of which being non-runners selling for north of $200 a piece. Does anyone have any idea for the apparent surge in Spectrum interest down here? I have my own theory, that perhaps it's got something to do with British expats and YouTubers, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. Finally, there have been a few reports coming in from overseas suggesting that vintage markets are beginning to cool off, with prices softening in the US and the UK in particular. I'd be interested to hear from viewers outside Australia. Have vintage computers in your country started falling in price? If so, has it affected certain machines more than others? I'd love to know more, and I'm sure plenty of Aussie viewers would also be keen to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to This Week in Retro episode 101 for putting the rocket up me that was so desperately needed to finally come out with another Australian market update video. Until next time, see you later.